Just another one of those things that just doesn't feel real. I've looked up to these people for my whole entire life. I'm going to be racing against them.
You're racing in IndyCar. Like, you're
yeah.
at the peak. This is what you've been training for.
That's what we live for. And if you don't enjoy that, I don't really know what to tell you.
At what point did you start to think, like, I'm good at this, and this could be what I do for a living? From South Bend to Evansville and everywhere in between, this is Get In, the show focused on the Hoosier State and the incredible stories happening here today. I'm Nate Spengel, founder of Get Indiana, and I will be your host for today's conversation. Quick pause to tell you about one of my new favorite spots in Indianapolis, Back 9 Golf. If you haven't been yet, you're missing out. This is the perfect way to get your swings in no matter what the weather's like outside. This place isn't your average golf range. It's a full-blown experience. Locally owned, locally operated, these guys are all about bringing the community together for a good time. They've got climate-controlled bays, great food, live music, and a bar that keeps the drinks flowing. And if you're looking for a place to host an event, birthday, corporate outing, bachelor party, Back 9 is the spot. They know how to throw down and make sure your crew has an unforgettable time. So next time you're looking for a night out that's more than just another bar, head to Back 9. Swing some clubs, grab some drinks, and support a business that's keeping it local. Check them out at back9golf.com or just pull up and see what all the hype's about. Tell them you heard about it on Get In. Today, I'm joined by Jacob Abel, a dynamic race car driver who has rapidly ascended the motorsports ladder. From karting at the Newcastle Motorsports Park to dominating Indy Next, and now stepping into the IndyCar series with Dale Coyne Racing. Hailing from a background steeped in family-run business values and Indiana racing heritage, Jacob's story is as much about passion as it is about speed on the track. I'm excited to get into this conversation. You are the newest rookie when it comes to everything IndyCar, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
like
first of all.
You're going to race in the IndyCar series this year.
Yeah.
Dude,
It's
that's
still hard to believe. I
crazy.
mean, I've been saying it. I still won't even say that I'm racing in the Indy 500 just because you never know. That event is so unique. So it's all my friends, when I say I'm racing in IndyCar, it's like, holy crap, are you going to be in the Indy 500 this year? And it's like, I'm going to be attempting to qualify for the Indy 500 because you never know.
Well, because
But-
it's 35 down to 33, right?
Exactly. Or I think it's however many show up. You know, back in the day, it was 40 or some odd. And the past couple of years, it's been kind of right around that 33 number. So it's always interesting if it gets over it. But
So more than, well, they only run 33,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
So like 40 people, because you can pay the $1 million or whatever it is and try to enter a car.
Right.
We talked about that with Connor, Dreyer Reinbolt.
Yes.
Like they only run the Indy
Yeah.
500, right? So they show up every year and they got to find a driver and put the whole thing together.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So I love that because you don't want to assume anything because we know what that does, but you are attempting to qualify to run the Indianapolis 500.
right. I am racing 17 out of 18, I think it's 18 races in IndyCar this year with hopes of racing 18 out of 18.
So all the other ones are guaranteed.
Yeah. Yep. And that's like this whole new charter system that they introduced is it's super unique. It's a little bit more making it like other sports to where these teams actually have an asset now. And so you have to be a chartered entry basically to enter all of the other races except the Indy 500. They wanted to preserve the Indy 500 to be that kind of show up and the fastest 33 are in, but all the other races now are a guaranteed entry.
It's not quals. What's the one before that?
Yeah. So, they have the Indy GP.
I was there last year, not like qualifying to see, is it all one time where you see who makes the field?
Yeah, okay, so they have qualifying, then they have bump day, is what you're
Bump
thinking.
day.
And bump day is where it gets
Dude,
dramatic.
It's a Sunday, right? It's the
Yeah,
Sunday before.
I want no part of that Sunday afternoon. I want to be on my couch watching it happen.
I was there this past year, and oh my gosh, it was intense, dude.
It's nuts. And you know, last year I think it was Graham Rahal who got bumped out of it, and this is
Was that last year or 2 years ago?
no, you're
2
right.
years ago,
it was 2
dude.
years
It was
ago.
Graham Rahal.
Well, it's crazy. It's crazy, right? Because these are some of the most proven drivers in IndyCar. They're race winners. You know, they've been in the series forever, and those are the ones that are at risk. You know, it shows you that truly anything can happen in this, and that's why we love it, and especially as a fan, that's why we love it. But it makes you a little nervous as a driver.
Dude, I'm excited. We're going to get into all that. But before we dive into everything that's going on now and all the exciting things, I kind of think we need a little bit of background about how we got here. I'll put it out there. Not a born Hoosier. All right. Jacob is from Louisville.
Sorry.
And he's like how I said, it's like, what's the capital of Kentucky? It's like Louisville, or Louisville.
Right.
It's like Frankfurt.
Yeah, bingo.
Got you. Come on. Just across the border, grew up down there. But like, I mean, we kind of talked about this a little bit before. Car racing is not as big in Kentucky. So you grew up on tracks in Indiana for the most part, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first Well, when I got into all of this has all been through my dad. He grew up racing motocross at a really, really high level, kind of did that all over the country.
For those listening at home, that's dirt bikes?
Yeah, dirt bikes. He raced dirt bikes. So, yeah, I mean, he was really good at that. He won a lot of amateur national championships. Was kind of right on the brink of going pro, but it was to a point in his career where he was a little bit burnt out. And in a race later in life, he got hurt really, really bad doing that. So, obviously, my mom still kind of has that taste in her mouth from that whole thing. And not that a race car driver is necessarily the most safe path, but it's a little bit safer than motocross racing.
I mean, like, you got the full-on setup versus, like, freaking dirt bike lands on your back. You're kind of hosed there.
Right. So when later in life, my dad got into car racing, vintage car racing, just as a hobby. He always had that racing, vein in his body.
Like, once you become an adrenaline junkie, that thing doesn't go away.
Exactly. So he did that while I was growing up. So I grew up going to all the tracks with him. And that's kind of how I caught the bug, really, is just go into the car tracks with him and then got into go-kart racing.
So go-kart racing was the beginning, the entry level. Like, did this start as like you go to like an 8th grade or like an 8-year-old birthday party and you just smoke everyone on like a go-kart track? And then you're like, I need to do this at a legit level.
Kind of. Yeah, to be honest, I grew up always having dirt bikes and having, little four-wheelers in the backyard and was always a little bit of a speed junkie. And we had an indoor go-karting track in Louisville, very similar to, the K1 Speeds or the Sarah Fishers that are here in Indy. It was called Bluegrass Indoor Karting at the time. I think they've changed the name since, but I grew up doing the leagues there and all of that and was having a really good time with it, every, Wednesday night or whenever I would go over there and was doing pretty well. And we decided we wanted to take it to the next level, and there was a go-kart track in southern Indiana. It was a dirt oval go-kart track, actually.
Dirt? So do you still, what kind of karts do you race on that? Probably not those little, like, close to the ground ones, right?
They're very similar, yeah. So it's
no suspension?
No suspension, just kind of getting beat up for sure. But yeah, that was in Indiana. It was in Clark County, Indiana.
What age is that?
I think I was 12 when I did that.
And like up until then, were you like playing football and baseball and other thing like normal? Like I don't want to say normal sports, but honestly, normal sports.
Yeah. So I was a lacrosse player my whole entire life. Ever since I was 5 or 6 years old. So there was a bit of overlap. I did still play lacrosse after I started go-kart racing, but it kind of came to a point where I would go to a race and miss 2 games and 3 practices, and the coach wasn't really super pumped with that. So kind of had to choose. I
do feel like racing or any of these more like unique boutique kind of sports. You can't really be like a football player that also races go-karts.
Right.
It's like you either got to be all in on this or you're like taking the normal sports trajectory.
For sure. Exactly. And that's, you travel so much and you miss out on a lot of things. That's kind of been a big part of my life is you do miss out on, I went to Trinity High School, and people in Indiana might be familiar if you might have played them in sports, but I went there in Louisville, and it's, an all guys Catholic school. We have huge football games. We're super passionate about that. I miss out on a lot of that. So
like Friday nights, you're not in the student, like the cheer block or whatever. Like you're on the road to friggin'
right. I mean,
Georgia,
Newcastle, Indiana, right? Or South Bend or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I got started in the go-karting world, and then I quickly transitioned into road racing go-karts on asphalt, on pavement, and that started out here at Newcastle.
Okay, so you're doing that dirt oval track, and you're like, okay, I still like this. Like, let's get a little bit more serious. At what point during that those early years did you start to think like, I'm good at this, and this could be what I do for a living?
Yeah, I mean, that honestly didn't come till way later. I'm still in disbelief that this is, what I do and that I don't have to, go to a job every day and all of that. But yeah, I think probably once you get into car racing and once you kind of start to see how it funnels into the best kind of float to the top a little bit. I've been super fortunate with the opportunities.
So you win some milestone races along the way?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest one was, I did win my first go-kart race, the little 12-year-old in Clark County, Indiana.
Isn't that crazy? It's like how different your life could have been if you got second in that.
Yeah, right. And
you're like, whatever.
Exactly. I got this trophy as tall as this table.
Let's go back and play lacrosse, Dad. Like, I don't want to do this if I'm going to get second.
Right. Well, the biggest problem with lacrosse is I never grew. So I was always tiny. So I got kind of my ass kicked a little bit growing up and all of that. So this go-karting thing that, size didn't really matter was a cool thing. I won that race. The biggest win for me would have been my first professional win. That's going a little bit down the road in F3 racing in Road Atlanta in 2019.
Wait, F3?
Yeah, Formula 3. It was when there was F3 in America. So everyone's obviously familiar with the F3, F2, F1 ladder.
And people will remember that like Connor Daly went through F3, but he moved to Europe.
Yep.
So like he was 18, move over there, and you're trying to make those. So there was an F3 America.
Yes. So I actually got started in F4 in America when they started this whole kind of bringing that series over here as very much an entry-level series.
Is that like a professional series though?
Yeah. I think kind of once you get to car racing and the junior open wheel ladder, it is all considered professional.
Say that again, junior open wheel.
Yeah, junior
ladder.
open wheel ladder. It's a pretty common term in racing. It's just it's the minor leagues essentially.
Gotcha. So you're like, that's not even like the Indianapolis Indians who are AAA. This is like you're playing for the South Bend Cubs single A.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Or honestly, what I compare it to a lot is I'm playing high school football, and then I'm playing college football, and then it's the NFL. So I think once you get to like the F3 Indy Lights kind of level, that's when you're sort of a college athlete, a college football player, and you're right on the brink of making it.
And do you own your own car at that point? Like how does someone fund this?
Yeah, so that's a very unique part about my personal journey is we have a racing team called Abel Motorsports. And that's what started through my dad when he was doing his vintage car racing. That is a very much a do-it-yourself thing. You kind of get some friends and everything and load up a trailer and go to the racetrack. But it obviously gets a lot more serious when you get to the professional side of things. And my dad kind of viewed that as an opportunity because when you're first starting in racing, regardless, it's kind of self-funded, at least up until a point. It gets ridiculous.
Dads and their sons or daughters are just like loading up a go-kart and a truck and a trailer and heading out.
Right.
And like maybe the local pizza joint slaps a sticker on it for $50.
Yeah. Red Bull's not giving you a call when you're 10 years old saying, we're going to pay for your whole entire racing career. Like you're done, you're taken care of. So
but wouldn't that be cool?
that would be nice. Yeah, I'm not saying that wouldn't be awesome. But when I was getting into it, my dad kind of saw that as a bit of a business opportunity. He's an entrepreneur. He's, had businesses throughout his whole entire life. And he didn't want to just write a check and say, see you later, go race for, Team X out there. We're going to do this ourselves. We're going to go buy the car and we're going to go acquire these assets. And so that, when you're racing, we can also bring in another driver and say, hey, this guy can drive for us. We're going to run 2 cars. We're going to run Jacob. And then we're going to also run another guy who's going to be, paying us money and helping offset all of our costs and making it a lot more doable for us, as well as, you spend this money and you actually own the car now, and that's something you can sell, and same with all the trailers and all the other assets there.
Yeah, also, but if you wreck it, then you're also on the line to fix it.
Exactly. I think you're kind of on the line either way. The teams protect themselves there.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so you have Abel Racing.
Yeah.
Or Abel Motorsports?
Yep, Abel Motorsports.
Nice. So, which is like, and I think that your dad's like, or your family has like a family business in construction. Yes. You guys have done a good job, and you have like the entrepreneurship bones, which I love.
Absolutely.
And like we could do a whole second episode on that. But so you're racing, you're making it up through this, you're going through the F4 America series, get to the F3. That's like college football.
Kind of. Yeah, that's
and like what is the milestone race there that you're like, okay, great, I get to take another step forward.
Right. I'd say the biggest thing was those wins in F3 Americas. I think when we showed up that year, I wasn't even really planning on racing that series. In America, there's...
How old are you at this point?
17 or 18. I'm honestly, to the whole entire thing, I'm actually relatively late, which is crazy.
Really?
Yeah. Starting go-karts at 12, most people start it when they're 5 years old or something like that. So yeah, I'm relatively late to it. But yeah, I think that would be the biggest thing would be those wins in F3, those wins in Formula Regional, and that kind of proved myself. And then I also did a lot of GT3 racing.
What does that mean?
So that's sports car stuff, Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Porsches.
Wait, you're 16, 17 years old and someone lets you behind the wheel of their Ferrari?
Yeah, well, it was actually an Acura NSX. So they're kind of supercar. But yeah, I was racing those. for a while there.
It
And
sounds way, no offense to Acura, right? But it sounded way cooler when you're like Ferraris and Lamborghini. And you're like, but it's an Acura.
the coolest part is that
That thing's pretty sick.
the coolest part is that we're in an Acura beating the Lamborghinis and then the Ferraris. So
Like, who's Acura? Like, who gave you this thing?
So I've had a really close relationship with Honda throughout my whole entire career. I was actually a junior factory driver through them. So that's another, the whole racing landscape, you could talk for 5 hours on trying to explain the whole entire thing because we haven't even touched the whole NASCAR side of the world yet. But yeah, that's another option is to go the sports car route, and it's on road courses and all of that. It's heavily manufacturer supported.
Oh, yeah, right. Like, they want, they win the race and they're like, now buy more.
Because you can actually see the Acura product on the track. An IndyCar doesn't necessarily look like a Honda at all. So I think that's one of their big things. But.
Yeah, and it's like you see their logo crossing the finish line, right? You like that? You like the NSX? Go buy the MDX and take your kids to soccer practice.
Bingo.
And that.
Got one outside right now.
Do you really?
Exactly. Yep.
How did I know?
Yeah,
Come on. I know it. Come on. All right. So you're rolling through that. And at what point do you decide I'm going to do racing, but I'm also, I don't know, I want to go to college too. I don't want to get that experience. Because I think you mentioned it earlier, not very common. Like, if you're going to go the professional driver route, don't go to college. You're wasting your time. Like, you might as well just continue to go. But you decided to go to Butler. Go Dogs.
Yeah, go Dogs. A lot of drivers don't even go to like regular high school. They'll do something online just because of how much you travel and all of that. So that was pretty difficult in itself. So I have an older brother, an older sister. They both went to college and graduated and did all that. And they both said it's the best 4 years of your life. It's an experience you never want to miss out on, And I think also in the back of my mind, in case the whole racing thing didn't work out, I want to have that experience a little bit. And then also, I think it's helped me on the racing side of things a lot. I went to school for marketing. It's, I think, made me gain a little bit more respect in big business meetings because in racing, you're in meetings with tons of C-level executives from huge companies all the time, just in terms of sponsorship and all of that. And I do think I get a little bit more respect having that, a little bit of a business background. I can kind of understand the way that they're talking about a little bit. So I did want to do that. Unfortunately, right after I went to college, my freshman year, halfway through, COVID happened. So that kind of took away half of it because half of it was the social elements, meeting all the people, having the experience and making those connections. And then, COVID came along and kind of took us all away from each other a little bit. So with that, I switched to part-time throughout my second year and the rest of kind of my college career.
Did you end up graduating?
Not yet. I'm still going to work on that one day.
Are you going to go back and finish it at Butler?
I'd like to. Butler's such a good school and it's such a prestigious university around Indianapolis. Everybody recognizes it. So I'd love to graduate from there.
All right, administration at Butler. When Jacob gets to run in the Indy 500, and when he wins the Indy 500, you might need to just give him an honorary doctorate.
That'd be awesome.
The honorary doctorate, right? For being a rookie and winning the Indy 500. We're putting that out there. Yeah. I'm going to toss that up to Butler, and you guys do with it what you want.
Perfect.
Okay, so you ended up switching to part-time. When did the racing career really start to accelerate?
Hey, that's a good one. That is a good one.
There we go.
I'd say in the last couple of years here, honestly, it's moving into Indy Next, Indy Lights.
Okay, so for people that don't understand, so we go from F3, doing well there, and give us the ladder.
The European ladder is very simple, right? Because it's F4, F3, F2, F1. America, they've kind of switched and swapped the names, but they basically have a ladder that runs parallel. It's USF 2000 is the first step. That's your F4. And then I think it's USF Pro 2000 now is the second one. And then you have Indy Next and then IndyCar. So Indy Next is basically the AAA baseball. You're right on the brink of it. And that's where I've spent the last 3 years of my career kind of really showing those results and showing that I do belong in the IndyCar series.
Okay. And I remember our good friend Evan. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about that. Evan runs with me every Thursday morning. And
I'm going to come to one of those.
Yes.
One day.
All right. We'll hold you to that too. One day he's getting the college degree and he's going to come to a track Thursday. You heard it here.
Love it.
But Evan, I remember was talking about, you got to race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in Indy Next. That's on the Saturday before the 500?
So they used to do the Freedom 100, and that was the Saturday, right, or the Friday right before.
Yes.
It was on Carb Day, but that they took that away. I think the last year that was 2021. So like right before I joined the series, but we do still race there. We race on the road course every year, at least once, usually 2 or maybe even 3 times. So it's cool because all the way going up through the ranks. I mean, USF 2000 also races at IMS. So you get to spend a lot of time
on the oval?
Not on the oval. So I've never driven the oval.
So the oval is only for the race?
Yeah. They try and keep it like very sacred like that. Not letting, you know, all these different cars on it. Tons of different cars go on the road course. You know, they have, you know, school cars, all sorts of different things go on the road course, but they like to keep the oval very, you know, prestigious. And it's like,
you got to earn your way on
exactly. There. It's like any other major stadium in the world, Churchill Downs, or I don't know, name any professional sporting event that
yeah,
happens.
They're not just letting like Joe Blow hop in and you know, swing at Yankee Stadium or whatever.
Exactly. But yeah, so we've gotten to race there a lot, and it's been pretty cool getting to spend a lot of time at that place. It's insane.
So I remember Evan telling me that you were racing Indy Next at IMS on the road course. What kind of results do you have to post in Indy Next to even get the option to maybe like interview, or how do you end up getting called up to into IndyCar?
Yeah, it's tough. It's a pretty interesting situation. It's very much not like any other sport. This last year in Indy Next, in short, you have to win races. At the very least, you have to win races, or else they're not really going to look at you at all. But back in 2023, I had some really good results. I was able to get a test with Dale Coyne Racing at the end of 2023.
What does a test mean? Like a legitimate driving test?
Yeah. It's another one of those kind of words. It's basically like practice. So we never get to go out on track. We never get to, you know, practice essentially, because it's not like we all have racetracks in our backyard like we have basketball hoops or something like that. You can't go out and put up 1,000 shots because it's very expensive to get on track, and they've regulated it all. So you'll only get, you know, 3 or 4 practice days per year, and that's what we call test days, because they use these days to test different things on the car. All the engineers do tons of research and try and prepare for these tests so that you have items that you actually go through and test. So that's why we call them tests.
Wow. So you got a test with Dale Coyne.
Yeah. So I got a test with Dale Coyne Racing. That was my first time driving an IndyCar.
That's 23.
That's at the end of 2023. I think we always kind of knew that I was going to go back and race in Indy Next because, like I said, you do have to prove yourself. And I hadn't won a race yet by the end of 2023. I'd finished on the podium a bunch of times. I'd gotten poles, but I hadn't actually gone out and even won a race. You know, it was an extremely frustrating year because we knocked on the door 100 times, but never got in.
Like, how'd you finish in, like, is there like a like a standings or whatever?
Yeah. So I was 3rd the whole entire season. And then, you know, last couple races, of course, you know, you crash or something breaks on the car. And I think I ended up dropping to like 5th. And that was still good enough to warrant
in 23.
In 23.
Okay.
Yep. And then going into last year, you know, we knew we really wanted to make a good run at the championship, and we felt like that was something that we were capable of and prepared for. You know, we had experience in the series.
And are you still like, is this Abel Motorsports?
Yeah.
That's pretty sick.
Well, and that's been the biggest thing about that is like this team has been growing kind of alongside me. So it's been you know, there's some really, really good teams in Indy Lights and in the ladder series. So you have Andretti Autosport, you have HMD, Juncos, who Connor drives for. Very, very proven teams. So we've kind of broken in there and had to make a name for ourselves. And I was a rookie driver my first year, and the team was a rookie team. So it's been super, super rewarding to share that with, you know, my whole entire family and the family that's at Abel Motorsports, because it's been the same core group of people throughout the past few years. So that's been a really, really rewarding experience as well.
Dang. Okay. So you get a test, but you know that you're going to go back to Indy Next. You race the 2024 season. How does that go?
They went really well. So, you know, we came right out of the gates going to St. Pete. It's a race we should have won the year before. I led like 33 out of 35 laps or something. So we go to that race. I finished 2nd, which was good. You kind of take that in the first race. You just want to get out of there with a result and not crash and get the season off on a good start. And then we kind of got hot a little bit. We went to Barber Motorsports Park, swept the whole entire weekend, led every single session, which is pretty rare. Both practices, got pole by like 3/10, and then led every lap and won the race. And then from there,
wire to wire,
exactly.
Baby. Where's Barbara Motorsports Park?
Barber is in Birmingham, Alabama.
Okay.
So we'll head there early on in the season. And then from there, you go straight into the month of May, and that starts off with the Indy GP. And that's a race that we always always race at, and it's honestly a track that we struggled at in the past. So it's one of those that the car setup wasn't perfect. It maybe didn't suit my driving style, and we show up there, and we actually had 2 races. It was a double header, and we get pole for both of them. So we were the fastest qualifier for both of them.
And this is at IMS?
At IMS.
And what's the 2 different races? Like, what is...
So it's just a double header. So it's
the same race, though?
Yep, same racetrack. So we race, I think it was actually like we raced it a Friday night at like 7 p.m. And then we come back the next day and race at noon. So where usually it's a whole weekend for one race, it's just a double header. So
interesting.
So yeah. So
is that like when you get out of the car Friday night and you're like, shit, I got to do that again?
Well, it's like, especially when you win. And we had worked really hard, and it's a super compressed weekend. So we usually have practice on a Friday, qualify on a Saturday, race on a Sunday. It's very spread out. We have a lot of time to digest, debrief things, make everything better. The first day of this event is practice in the morning, qualify right around lunchtime, and race all in the same day. So that's what made it, even more special. As we rolled off, the car wasn't great. We were like 6th or something in the first practice. We figured it out in like the hour that we had before qualifying, and it's qualifying for 2 races. So we got both poles, and that was like crazy. That was out of nowhere, especially coming off the Barber race.
So you end up winning both of those?
Just one. So I won the first one, and then I got second in the second one. So
through 3 races though, a first and 2 seconds?
Yeah. So it was a second, a first, and a second, counting St. Pete. So yeah, it was pretty cool to start off that hot, but unfortunately, when you start off that hot, the only way to go is down. So we went to Detroit after that, had like a 4th, I think, which is fine. And then we get into the meat of the season.
How does the scoring work?
So it's all points based. So there's a specific chart you might be able to pull up.
Does 4th score points?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So no matter where you're scoring something.
You're scoring something.
Okay.
And that's why it's super important to be consistent. There's 22 drivers in the field, and it's super important to just be consistent, always be at the front, and not crashing or not having anything go wrong. To be honest.
And it's like, if you just keep yourself in the mix, it's like you're getting your 5th, 6th, 4th, 3rds, on the podium, and then it's like you just got to break through and win a couple.
Right, and you got to win when you can win. When you have a car that is capable of winning, you need to maximize that. And just as if you have a car that's capable of finishing 5th, is maximizing that and not trying to, over extract or go crazy trying to get 4th instead of 5th, and then you crash and finish 22nd. So that's probably the biggest thing. Wow,
that's interesting to think about. Where like some teams are going into the race being like, we're not going to win it, but we just want to we want to do the best that we are in the position to do.
Well, it's so unlike any other sport, right? Because in any other sport, or most of the sports that we all follow, it's a winner and a loser on every, match, on every game, on every anything like that. So you're going out there knowing that you're either going to win this game or you're going to lose this game. Racing, this year there's going to be 27 cars every race. So they say it in Lightning McQueen in Cars says it, 1 winner, however many losers, but it's actually true. There's only 1 winner on the race weekend and 26 people lose basically. So it's a big mental battle, and always staying strong through the times that you're not winning, because it is such a rare thing. And it's also like, finding your own personal wins and what would be a win for your team. I think next year I'm not expecting to go out and win a lot of races, to be honest, just because it's such a competitive series. But I think we need to establish our goals, and if we get a podium, that'd be amazing. That is a win for us. So it's just trying to navigate and manage those goals
and make the Indy 500, right?
Well, exactly, yeah.
And then win that.
Right, exactly.
I mean, that'd
be pretty sweet.
That would be
pretty sweet.
Big news from my friends over at Hope Plumbing. Now Hope Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. You heard that right. They are now your one-stop shop for home services, offering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical. New name, added services, but same trustworthy, loyal company. They treat your home like their very own, and now that includes HVAC as well. Book your next home services appointment with Hope and mention Get Indiana, and Hope will give you a free membership for a year. A membership includes important services like whole home plumbing inspection, a free mainline drain snaking, 2 seasonal HVAC inspections, and so much more. That's a deal you can't miss out on. Call Hope Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling and start saving today. Now let's get back into the show. I don't know, man. I think that's the longevity of it, right? It's like, hey, you're a rookie, and there are guys, who is it? Like Pato, right? It's like, dude, he's been grinding to get one, and is right there in the mix,
Right.
but just like can't get over the
Well,
hump.
and we just saw the Super Bowl commercials, right, of Joseph Newgard and Pato, Alex Palou. It was hilarious. We had a bunch of people coming over to watch the Super Bowl, and my buddy is watching the Joseph Newgarden commercial where they're painting him as this like perfect person, and he's like so beautiful and perfect, and he's playing ping pong with 17 paddles and hitting all the balls blindfolded. My friend just looks over and it's like, oh, Jabel's fucked.
Yeah, right.
There's no way
Like,
to
dude, look at
compete
this.
with that.
Like, this dude's on the Super Bowl commercial.
Well, it's wild that and it's just another one of those things that just doesn't feel real, right? It's like I've looked up to these people for my whole entire life, and it's like, wow, I'm gonna be racing against them. I'm gonna be fighting against this person and all these other people.
Like, isn't that wild?
To go win races?
It's like there's football players out there that are like or like a basketball player, you get in the league and all of a sudden you're like guarding LeBron.
Right. Yeah.
And you're like, I used to have a poster of
Right.
you.
That's exactly how it is.
Dude, but it's awesome. I mean, this is
Right.
what you've been working for.
Well, and that's the thing, and I know it's once we get to the track in St. Pete for the first race, like it's gonna all come naturally, and it's just another step. It's just like any other step that I've made in my career. And once I get on the racetrack and around the other people, it doesn't matter.
You
who
lock
they
in and you
are.
do your thing,
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
At what point last year did you know things were going in the right direction and that you might be taking this step to IndyCar this year?
Yeah, I think it'd probably be midway through the season. It's tough because you want to focus on the job at hand and you want to succeed in Indy next and not look too far in the future. But we started having meetings with teams and owners, midway through last year. I knew that was going to be my last year in Indy next. It was my third season. I really needed to go out there and prove what I needed to do. So that was the biggest thing is just staying focused, staying locked in, and just trying to win every single race. And ultimately, we fell a little bit short of the championship. My competitor, Louis Foster, he just got unbelievably hot in the middle of the season, and it was basically just us two fighting at the front. So when I wasn't there to beat him, when things weren't going perfectly for me, like no one else seemed like they were either. So it was good. I mean, we ended up kind of getting it back a bit, and we won a race down the stretch and got some good results there at the end, which kind of regained my confidence for this next season.
Is he in IndyCar now too?
Yep.
How many drivers got called up?
So it's 2 did this year. So it's me and him, which is really good for the series because a lot of the times, it's not a given that anyone from Indy next will kind of get that opportunity or anything, which is crazy. But
And does like someone have to be like ousted for you to take a spot?
I guess, I mean,
Like who was sitting in your
technically-
seat last year?
Right. It was a bit of a rotating cast of characters. Jack Harvey was the one full-time guy.
Yeah.
At Dale Coyne Racing. I think he might have had an opportunity to maybe go back there. I think he chose to go in a different direction. He's with Dreyer and Reinbold. Is who we were talking about.
And so that means he's only going to race once a year.
Yep. So he'll fill a schedule with other things and all of that. But yeah, man, it's a tough world. It's so unlike any other sport because there's only 27 seats in IndyCar and then, 20 in Formula One. So that's kind of where all of us drivers from this junior open wheel ladder get funneled to is one of those series. And it's crazy.
Is there a lot
way
of
more talented drivers than there are spots?
Is there a lot of pressure? Like,
Yeah, I mean, because you gotta succeed to keep your seat, right? And I think that's ultimately right now. It's a lot of gratitude. I'm just happy to have the opportunity to be in this series and get a chance to go out there for however many weekends this year and have a chance to prove myself. That's all I can really ask
yeah,
for.
right.
At this
It's like
stage in my career.
you get the opportunity. Not that it's slightly different, but it was like, dude, Caitlin Clark's coming out of Iowa.
Yeah.
Huge pressure to just like be the person right now. Like you got to be this all-star. And it's like, I can't imagine being her one, right? That's insane. Right. 22, 23, you got all this pressure. But it's like, dude, you're in a similar vein. Maybe not quite as much pressure, but still a professional sports career where it's like you have to perform or you're getting ousted and your dream of IndyCar. I don't know if you can go from being like in IndyCar, you don't do well, you get ousted, you got to go find another seat. Like there's only 27 of them.
Yeah.
That's insane, dude.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. And there are, other avenues. I kind of can compare it to playing overseas or going in Europe. And I don't want to kind of put that in a negative light, but the whole sports car side of the world is a extremely prestigious racing where there's tons of careers. And you do see some guys kind of take that path, but
But it's not racing the Indy 500.
No, exactly. And it's not, they do have their big races, but it's not the Indy 500. It's not the Super Bowl. It's not the NBA championships. And
It's not the biggest sporting event in the world.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Dude. Okay, so tell me about when does the season kick off and what are you doing to prepare for it?
So that's the thing. It's like we only announced this whole entire thing because that's when we honestly finalized it. We announced it right when we finalized it, and that was probably 3 weeks ago. I spent most of my off season. Our season ended in first weekend of September last year. So it's been 5 months of just kind of trying to figure it out, trying to figure out what the plan is for next year, am I going to be a race car driver? Am I not? I think it all came together so late that we are kind of scrambling a little bit to get all prepared. But at the end of the day, we still have some time. It's a lot of just...
Like, what were you doing to stay sharp from September to now?
We train a lot. It's a very physical sport. It's not, I'm not going to say it's football or it's basketball where we're doing anything like that. But
Connor was telling me, like you imagine holding that 30-pound dumbbell for freaking 3 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
And
like I said, I went to an all guys high school that is one of the best football teams in the country. And, we're good at every single sport. So I never try and get into the arguments of racing is so much, more of a sport than anything else. I don't go there, but it is very, very physical, especially IndyCar where, you don't have power steering. That's kind of a big key word for all of this. F1, NASCAR, all of those do have power steering.
or do they really?
Yeah. So they can they're assisted in their steering. We aren't. So, you have these cars that, they weigh, 1,500-1,600 pounds. But in addition to that, they also have 2,000 pounds of downforce. So you're driving,
you're pulling G's.
Yeah, this like 4,000 pound car through the high speed corners, and you have nothing to help you turn the wheels against all of that grip and stuff. So that's probably the biggest thing. The neck, the body being under those G's is pretty crazy.
How do you train for that?
It's hilarious. I train not with many other race car drivers. I train at a gym up in Fishers. It's called iFast. There's a lot of other Butler athletes and people like that train there. But yeah, when we break out all these different kind of neck apparatuses to train for that, and everybody always gives me funny looks. But yeah, just all sorts of just neck training is honestly the biggest thing because the seats are so advanced that you're so locked in there. I actually just came from a seat making is where you sit in this basically like gel bag and it all forms around you and they move it into the perfect position so that your body doesn't really move that much.
Yeah, and you can't gain or lose any weight.
Right, exactly.
Like I don't know when does the IndyCar season run from when to when?
So it's 6 months. So it's March to the end of August now. So yeah.
So you for 6 months, dude, you can't put on any pounds, you can't lose any weight. Like you got to stay exactly the same.
Right, and that's another big thing too. Is everything is measured basically in grams, right? It's not pounds. It's grams and ounces. So it's all very, very scientific, the way that they do everything, place all the weight on the car, and all of that. So, yeah, but like I was saying, that's kind of what I was spending most of my off-season training for is we didn't have, the next race in sight. We didn't know what we were doing. So I'm in the gym just training, staying ready for whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And then, this did all come together, and I do feel prepared now. But
who's is there another driver for Dale Coyne?
So they haven't announced it yet. It's the 27th seat in IndyCar. So it is the last one.
When is that going to come out?
I don't know.
Any hot leads?
I think everybody has a pretty good idea at this point. It might be announced by the time this
He
comes
said it's going to go out in like a month.
Okay. In a month, then yeah, it should be announced. But I'm still not going to say anything.
He's not. Oh,
but, because I don't know. It could change, right?
It could change.
I don't want to be
like who would be the finalists that people are looking that don't have a seat yet.
I think everybody has kind of looked at Rinus VK, Linus Lundqvist, guys like that who have experience and deserve to be in the series. They've had some very good talent and they've had really good results in the series. So I'd love to have a guy like that as my teammate.
Like a veteran to give you some experience or some mentorship.
100%.
I'm Googling right now. Let's see what the hot takes are. Who is Dale Coyne?
Dale Coyne is a super interesting character. He's an awesome guy. He's been a sort of a legend in the IndyCar paddock. He was a driver back in the day. But then he's started this team and run this team ever since I think the late 80s. even when he was driving, he was running the team. So he was doing both at the time. And, he's had a very successful team throughout the past, 30 some odd years. So yeah, it's cool dude for sure. Cool. But he's very notorious for not announcing his drivers until like the week of the race. So it's,
oh, wow, they're great. All right, so here's what Reddit says. Yeah. We're on Reddit for our IndyCar.
Okay.
Only one seat remains for 2025. Here's the lineup as it stands. Who just asked me who I was cheering for. I said, you and Connor.
Bingo.
Of course, right? you gotta represent the Indiana boys. All right, and then someone comments and says, and it will remain open until February 28th around 8 a.m. And someone's like, why is that? He says,
because that's when first practice is.
Well, he says, because it's the second Dale Coyne seat, infamous for being filled at the absolute last minute.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
And I honestly don't know. Like, I have good ideas, but until something's signed and done and announced, you really never know. So that's why I don't want to say anything.
Do you ever get like haters? Like that don't think you deserve it?
You do kind of get that. You're always going to get it. And I was expecting that from the start when that announcement came out that we're doing IndyCar. I was expecting to get, a lot. I was expecting 20% or something of people to be like, you don't deserve to be there or anything like that. I've obviously been in a very fortunate position of having been running with my family team, and that's been successful. That team is going to keep going now. We already have 4 signed drivers for Abel Motorsports in Indy next for 2025. So it's like, it's been very successful there. And also the construction side of things, they've supported a lot of my career, but at the end of the day, it's been very beneficial actually to the construction side of things. We have an Indianapolis office now. We've gotten a number of jobs in Indianapolis purely because of the motorsport side of things. So it's very easy to look at it and say, Jacob Abel, the only reason he's there is because he's sponsored by Abel Construction because his dad owns the company and he's got money to spend. It's super easy to say that, and I get that. But I think if it was any other company that had generated, the amount of revenue and business and has seen the value as Abel Construction has, I think it would be a little bit of a different story. And they aren't even going to be the only sponsor for this year at all. I think we've had some really, really good talks with other companies and other people that are going to get on board for everything, it's been really cool too, but it's tough. I'm sure Connor talked about it. It's tough to get people to write huge checks for motorsports.
Dude, the business behind the whole thing, right, is hard.
It's insane.
I think that a lot of people, and we had a whole rant about this with Connor. I think a lot of people look at it and think like, dude, you're racing an IndyCar. Like, you got millions.
Right.
You got a freaking Rolex and millions coming in. Right. He's like, yeah, I got like an Acura MDX from that's on loan. I love it. Yeah, it's on loan for the team and for the season. I got to give that thing back, and if I go over 30,000 miles, they're going to charge me extra. It's
all probably actually really accurate.
But it's like, okay, so where do you feel like the threshold of you're a superstar? Like, where does that threshold? Like, you got to win a race, you got to win Indy 500.
Yeah.
Like, I think that I think this is kind of public knowledge. It's like the drivers at the best teams are still not getting $1 million a year from their team.
Right. Some of them are now, which is
are
good.
they? Okay.
I think I wouldn't say it's 50%, but some of the people are getting paid good money to put their lives on the line and race cars, but ultimately most of them aren't, it is pretty crazy, but it's just the nature of it. I mean, we know, especially being on the team side of things, I think that's helped me a lot in negotiations and in all of that is we know how much it costs. We know how much work goes into putting a race car on track. I mean, it costs, I think, $10 million a year to get a car on track. That's not what everyone's paying, but
like at cost for Dale Coyne, right? What do they pay to enter one race car in you said it's 17 races?
Yeah, 17, I think.
I think it's 7. Yeah, right. So to race one car in 17 races.
Yeah, I think a rough number for that and a good number to like benchmark it is it costs the teams $10 million roughly per car
per season,
which is crazy.
And so it's like you got to go out there and make them more than $10 million in that driver's seat.
Yeah. So
right? Like if you're thinking through like profit and loss.
They sell and a lot of these teams are operating at a loss, unfortunately. That's just kind of how it is. There's a saying in racing that goes, if you want to make a small fortune in racing, you start with a big one because ultimately you end up losing money and you get a small fortune. They are getting commercial value now, and it's in a lot better place than it was, say 5 years ago with this charter system. I think a lot of big companies are now coming in and partnering with teams. I think Ed Carpenter Racing, just got a partnership with Java House and Splenda. And I think, you're going to see them on the cars. And that's what we need. We need these big, huge, hundreds of millions of dollars of companies to come into the sport and help it out. And I think once everybody sees the series, is they do see the value in it. And I think it's the greatest spectacle in racing. It's the biggest single day sporting event in the world. I mean, you saw how much a Super Bowl halftime commercial costs. For a 30-second commercial, it costs like $8 million. Like, it's insane. You could sponsor an IndyCar for a full entire season, including the Indy 500, for that money. And I think that's just something that, as drivers and the series, they need to keep promoting that. And I think they are, and I think it's headed in the right direction.
Yeah, now that drivers can build more of their personal brand, their own kind of marketing property, where it's like, I don't know how that works, but it's like if you're going out and getting sponsored by whoever to appear in a commercial or to post something on your social media, like that matters.
The biggest value for these companies is always going to be on that B2B side of things. It's connecting with other businesses and bringing clients out to the track and showing them what that experience is, giving them pace car rides, giving them rides in the two-seater, giving them a behind-the-scenes look at everything. That's where we have seen the value in going out to these companies and partners. We've got some pretty excited partners coming on this year, which I'm excited to announce at some point. But I think the biggest way we've been able to sell that has been throughout the experience. It's even the richest people in the world can only buy the most expensive ticket at a race. Let's say it's $10,000. Let's get crazy for the Indy 500. A lot of those people, they don't even want that seat. They want to be behind the scenes. They want to be behind the ropes. They want to be in the pits with the team, with the drivers. They want to be up in the trailers, looking through everything and all of that. And that's the value that we provide is really giving them something more than they could go out and just buy on their own and go out and do on their own.
Yeah, right. It's like you're getting access versus just like a good seat on the home stretch.
Yeah. Well, and then you have a horse in the race too, right? It's you have someone and some team to really cheer for that you are a part of, and you've helped make that happen. I think.
Yeah, you get on the podium and you're all over the car.
Imagine how much more fun it would be to cheer for. I don't know, cheering for something that and you own. It's like going to your son's basketball game. You're obviously going to be more passionate about that than going and looking, watching another random like high school basketball game or something like that.
Dude, I love it. I think it's incredible. I'm excited to follow along.
Thank you.
Okay, so previously I declared Connor my IndyCar favorite driver. But that was because I hadn't really got to meet you and said. So now I'm going to say it's a 50-50 split.
Let's go.
I'm Jacob and Connor will be who I am cheering for this year throughout the season. Get started in St. Pete.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Every race is going to be on Fox, too, which is a huge deal. They just came in this year, took the reins away from NBC.
Wow.
So every single IndyCar race this season is going to be on Network Fox, which is going to be a really, really big deal.
So we got to watch. Because like I feel like Indiana does a really good job of coming out for the Indy 500.
Absolutely.
Like that's a no-brainer. But now let's watch these two Indiana guys freaking battle it out all season long. 27 drivers, 17 races. 16, not including the Indy 500.
Yes.
So we'll be cheering you on, dude. I'm really pumped. We are coming down to the end of the show.
Yeah.
I have some fun segments if you want to.
Let's do it.
Oh, here we go, baby. First segment. This is our Younger Years segment brought to you by our friends at Orr Fellowship. They're a great organization here in Indiana, helping develop young business leaders across the state. Jacob, what advice would you give to your 16-year-old self?
There we go. I'd say just stick with it, man. Buy in 100% to everything that you're doing and give it your all, because you never know when your last chance is going to be in motorsports or in any aspect of your life, and just enjoy it. I think take every opportunity that comes across the table and embrace it and go into it fully. I think that's something that I've prided myself on ever since having to miss out on a lot of things. I think all throughout high school, missing football games, missing parties, missing everything has made me really, really appreciate the opportunities and the things that I've gotten to do with the people that I've got to do them with.
And it's like, I wonder if you ask 16-year-old you, in the moment you're like conflicted. It's like, do I want to go to this race or do I want to go to this school dance or whatever? And it's like, if you tell 16-year-old you, man, just stay patient, because in 7 years, you're going to be racing in IndyCar.
Right.
Do you think 16-year-old you like is like, cool, I'll make the trade?
I don't think he was good enough back then. I don't think he would have believed it. But now I think it's, I think I've come a long way since then. So,
I mean, clearly, and I love you're humble, man. Like, you're racing in IndyCar.
It's crazy.
Like, you're at the peak.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what you've been training for.
Right. Exactly.
Granted, you said you late to the arrive, like late to the game, starting go-karts at 12, but like, isn't that nuts too? Like 11 years.
It's pretty nuts.
From go-karts to IndyCars in 11 years.
A dirt track in the middle of nowhere at Clark County Fairgrounds in Indiana to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in just over 10 years is pretty...
Knock on wood.
Pretty crazy. Yeah. Well, we'll be racing at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. At least for the GP.
Yeah,
so.
you're there at least. Yeah,
Exactly.
you're right. That's so incredible, man. Like, I'm just pumped up thinking about it, and I have made the official commitment that I'm going to be following IndyCar. I can't promise to like watch every lap of every race, but on Sunday, is it usually on Sundays?
Yeah, Sunday mornings usually.
Sunday morning, I'm going to toss it on.
Love it.
Dude, we're going to follow the boys.
What else were we watching on Sundays?
Right?
No football.
Amen. This is so true.
And that's, I think, honestly, why Fox is such a big deal. And that's why they've been pushing it. That's why we saw IndyCar Super Bowl commercials. You know, that was huge. And we've never gotten that before. And that's why our schedule is what it is. It's because they want right when football ends, our Sundays are IndyCar now.
Yeah, what? That starts in 3 weeks?
Yeah, 3 weeks. So, and then it's going to run basically all the way right until football starts. So, replace your fantasy football with fantasy IndyCar and
yes,
sports betting. I think the sports betting thing is now in. So
I'm gonna lay some absolute hammers on.
The odds are great, by the way.
On Connor and Jacob to podium.
Bingo.
I'm gonna be rolling those all year, every race, all year long. Gonna make $1 million.
That's the fun thing about IndyCar sports betting is all the odds are so positive. It's like the favorite will be like plus 300, plus 400 or something. That's just because it's so unpredictable. And I think that's why it's fun. That's why we love it.
Yeah. All right, here we go. We're coming to the lightning round. Jacob, what is your pre-race ritual?
Pre-race ritual is that I don't have a pre-race ritual.
That's the same thing Connor said.
I don't like being superstitious. I think
just a little stitious.
Just a little stitious. Just a little stitious.
Wow, exactly. I respect that. It's just like you just gotta get yourself in the right headspace. But like,
you know, I hang out. I try and relax as much as possible because I think the more you're like hyping yourself up, the more you're going to be antsy, the more you're going to be likely to make a mistake. I perform the best when I'm as chill and relaxed as possible.
What's your go-to pump-up song before you go into the car?
See, and that's one thing that I'm going to have to get used to is because in Indy Next, you just listen to music until you can get in the car. But IndyCar's got so many pre-race things. From what I understand is that you don't get to like really be locked in right before you go out there. So I'd say I'm an EDM fan. I like all EDM music. They just announced today that Millennium is playing the Snake Pit this year. I would say like any Millennium song. Big fan.
All right,
big
respect
fan
that. Dude, did you ever play back in the day MX versus ATV Unleashed?
I did.
On PS.
Absolutely.
And my go-to song from that was Headstrong.
Yeah.
Dude,
that's a classic.
if I was going like me and my buddy Andrew, we would be like riding his four-wheeler and we would like be splitting headphones or playing that song or driving in the car, whatever. And like, anytime we want to get jazzed up for anything racing. Yeah, you got it, buddy. Let's go to. What driver has been your biggest inspiration?
It's corny to say my dad.
That's not
corny. The reason this whole thing started was because of my dad. You know, I grew up going to the racetrack and, you know, watching him drive. And that's what got me, you know, into it and really start to fall in love with it. I would kill to see him at the dirt bike track back in the day, cutting it up, you know, really doing well, winning races. I think that'd be an awesome experience. But I think probably him. I think it'd be really cool to see him in his heyday. But even in the vintage car racing, it was just cool to watch him kind of do his thing.
I love that, dude. This isn't a question, it was just I saw on here. One, you once raced in stadium super trucks.
Yeah, that's
Dude,
crazy.
How are those?
Yeah,
those things are wild.
You could pull up a picture of them, but they're nuts. They're literally. So I became friends with Ari Leindyke Jr. He was actually The Bachelor, so he races cars. And I remember talking to him before I was getting into it. I was like, dude, what's it like to drive these things? I don't even know where to start. And he compared it to driving a giant marshmallow. So it's literally you go down the straightaways and you're just like floating back and forth at like 140 miles an hour. And then let's not forget that you also jump like 20 feet in the air.
You like ramp shit.
You ramp, yeah. fully
Holy
ramped.
smokes,
Dude, when I started doing that, it was crazy. It was through a sponsor that I had at the time. He wanted to put this whole thing together. He had a lot of drivers that were going to go do this stadium super truck race in Nashville, in downtown Nashville on the streets. And he was like, very, very last minute, hey, do you want to come do this race? I'm like, yeah, but I've got no clue. I don't even know how to take a jump. I've never been in the air in anything except a dirt bike when I was a lot younger. And so what he did is he's got this shop down in Kentucky, took out in his parking lot a few jumps. And so I'm literally, for like 3 days before the race, I get in one of these trucks, drive it around his parking lot, take it over like 4 or 5 jumps for like an hour. And that's like, all right, you're good to go. Let's go to Nashville. So it's like, that was my preparation.
Was your mom terrified?
Oh my God. I mean, I don't think she was at that race, which makes sense. But yeah, it's nuts, dude. That whole series is crazy because it is for the show. Like that's why they're there is for the people. So it's like, all the drivers get together before the races and kind of plan how they want to do things because they do these like competition cautions that slow everyone down and pack us all up again. So it's more crazy. Like the bumping and wrecking of each other, it's not promoted, but it's certainly not prohibited. I think one of the only rules was that if you hit someone hard enough that it breaks your hood and your hood flies off, I think you get like a 10-second penalty. But that was basically like one of the only rules. Other than that, it's like, just go for it, make it interesting for the fans.
It's like WWE, but for racing?
It's not scripted.
Or
like
it's not scripted,
yeah,
though.
everyone's going after each other like hard trying to win. And like you actually get like a decent amount of prize money if you win the races. So it's like,
well, yeah, because it's probably like it's entertaining and people are paying. And wow.
I remember those race weekends, and there'd be like IndyCar race weekends. Fans would come up to me and tell me like, that's the best show of the weekend. Like we came here to watch the IndyCars, but we are now Stadium Super Truck fans because those things are crazy. And that is like the most fun thing we've ever seen. Because you're going off a straightaway at like 100 and then jumping like 50 to 60 feet long, at least, maybe 100 feet long, like flying.
Were you scared?
Dude, I was so nervous. I was like, I know how to drive. It also feels like you're going to flip over every single corner you go.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, when you talk about floating, I'm like, nah, I'm cool.
Exactly.
I'm chilling on that,
I used
dude.
to be stuck to the ground with the most grip possible in these like high performance race cars. And then you're literally in this like off-road truck going around these corners on 3 wheels. It's nuts.
Do you ever just have that moment sometimes when you're driving? You're like, man, how did I get here? This is sick.
Absolutely.
Like I have that moment sometimes when I'm like, you know, stuff's just like cool, and you look around and it's like, what are the life decisions that I had to make to end up right where I am on 3 wheels, coming through a turn, about to go over a jump 100 feet?
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, it's
dude.
Nuts.
I also saw the other fun fact that we had is your guilty pleasure food Skyline chili?
Oh, dude, hell yeah.
Oh,
Love
dude!
Skyline chili.
I just posted. I was down in Cincinnati, and I posted pork tenderloins greater than Skyline chili.
Yep.
All of my Cincinnati or Ohio people were all pissed. There's like, no way, chili's the move.
Yeah.
And then I just said, "Oh, you mean Gold Star?" And they're like, "Oh my god!" They go crazy.
Obviously not from Cincinnati, but Louisville had it a ton. It was my grandpa loved it. My family would always go there all together, eat Skyline chili, coney dogs.
Heck yeah. Perfect. All right. These are the same 3 questions I ask everyone who comes on the show. First question: what's something the world needs to know about Indiana?
If the world doesn't already know that we have the greatest spectacle and greatest sporting event in racing, I think everybody needs to know that. And I sing those praises all day long, that it is the greatest race in the entire world. Formula One, NASCAR, all of that. Like, even a lot of those people will mutually agree that the best race in the world, the race that everyone tunes into, is the Indy 500. And like, I get in even like arguments with people about that. They're like, there's no way it's the single most, or it's the most people at a single day sporting event in the world. Like, all of that. It's obviously the people that haven't been there, because once you go, and like, we can say it all we want, but until you experience an Indy 500 in person, I think I've been to 10 of them now. It's like impossible to explain.
Dude, and it's like the feedback or the comment to that is usually like, I don't like racing. It's like, you don't have to.
No.
Like, you just have to like
having fun,
people watching, like I'll say like drinking, music, being outside, people watching. I say that again because you're going to see some characters.
Well,
like, it's
snake
awesome.
pit is like, it's a whole different world in there. I mean, I've been a couple times. I haven't like actually gone to the snake pit as I'm going to the Indy 500 to go to the snake pit. Maybe in another life I would have been every year, but
yeah, right.
It's crazy. I mean, it's those people aren't going to the race. They don't know what lap it is. Like no one can tell.
But then like even at the end, I feel like a lot of them will even go like watch the first 5 laps, watch the last 10 laps.
Exactly.
And it's like when those cars start zooming by, dude. And like when you're right up on the fence, you can't even tell what's going on. You're like looking on the board and it was like Newgard, like that final exchange last year, dude. Crazy.
That 500 last year was the craziest thing.
And the
that's
rain
one
delay?
thing- yeah. And that the fact that everyone came back, it just shows how much this city kind of rallies around that.
Amen.
And it's so cool. And I still haven't really realized, because I'm such a big IndyCar fan. I've been to the Indy 500, like I said, the last like 10 years, I think. The fact that I'm actually going to be in it, like I'm not going to be able to watch it this year because I'm going to be racing in it is crazy. And like races like that last year were just the coolest thing in the world. I remember just hearing the crowd go crazy when, Pato passed him and then Newgarden passed him back. It's just like, that's what we live for. And if you don't enjoy that, I mean, I don't really know what to tell you.
Yeah. If you don't enjoy that, you don't enjoy anything.
Right.
Next question. What is a hidden gem in Indiana?
I think Yats is one. I think Long's Bakery, if you're familiar with Long's. But I think a truly hidden gem would be the coffee shop inside the Raskeller downtown. It's called Coat Check Coffee. They have the best homemade biscuits. So you literally, while you're ordering, you see the people in the back like kneading the dough and making biscuits, and it makes the best breakfast sandwich like I've had in town. And I'm a pretty big breakfast sandwich connoisseur.
Oh,
So
big breakfast Sammy guy.
Yeah, exactly.
What goes on the perfect breakfast sandwich from Coat Check?
I go sausage, egg, and cheese. I think it's a classic. I think they do some like spicy honey jam or something like that. So I think, but the showstopper is the biscuit that makes it all.
Heck,
is the
I love
biscuit.
that.
So,
Dude, the Athenaeum. I think there's this whole.
That's what it's also.
Yeah,
called.
right. So it's this whole big thing. I've actually been talking to them about the building is the Athenaeum, and it's a nonprofit, but it also operates Raskeller as well as Coat Check and this, that, and it's this whole big thing, which is super cool. And I would charge anyone that's out there that's interesting. It's like that building's actually not just the Raskeller. There's so much interesting stuff. Yeah. And the breakfast coffee shop spot, money. I love that. And no one's ever said that one.
Okay, I appreciate that.
There you go.
That's good. That's
a true hidden gem. And I always love the specific call out where it's like the breakfast Sammy at Coat Check Coffee.
Yep, absolutely.
Heck yeah.
Specifically the biscuits. Anyone can have any sausage and egg and cheese, but the biscuit just makes it go
Heck
crazy.
yeah. Final question, man. Who's a Hoosier we need to keep on our radar? Someone who's doing big things.
You guys, right?
Dude.
Can I say that? Does anyone ever say that?
No one's ever said that one before,
let's
but
say
I take that. Thank you.
You guys are killing it here. I think it's an awesome thing, shedding light onto all of the Hoosiers who are doing big things, and I think it's a really cool show.
I am, like, you talk about being grateful. Like, I'm eternally grateful. Like, I get to sit here and hype up people.
That's awesome.
Of like other Hoosiers doing crazy cool things in front of a few cameras and a microphone. Like, talk about like dream. And I don't have to put my life on the line. Like, come on. This is fun, dude. Well, I'm excited to come out. I mean, I'm wishing you great luck this season.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed, you'll be in the race.
Hopefully.
The 500, dude, we'll be out there.
We do our job, we'll be there. We do our job
that's
right,
the key, right?
there.
Like, you got to stay humble, grateful, but like also driven. Like, it's expected.
Absolutely.
Like, in your head, you're already, I assume it's like, I'm going to be racing there. We're going to do our job and get there.
And that's the thing. And I don't want it to come across as like that's the goal, is just to make the race. Like, I want to finish in the top 10. I want to win the race ultimately one day. That's my goal. I'm not just here to be here. I do want to succeed. It's just, it is also a possibility. I just have to get that out there and not be, like I said, I'm not superstitious. I'm just a little
stitious, dude. But either way, like, I'm super excited to follow your season this year. You got a new fan. Like, I'm pumped up about it, dude. This is sick. And we'll be out in turn 3 representing again. Hopefully you're on the track. It'll be sick. We'll be rooting for you. And thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for the amazing things you're doing for the sport of IndyCar as well as the city of Indianapolis. And we're gonna have to bring you back on after the race.
Absolutely. After we win.
After do a little debrief.
That'll be pretty sweet.
Oh, first public appearance. After he wins the Indy 500.
Yeah, we'll come in here at like 2 a.m.
And we'll do a live stream.
Perfect.
And it'll be sick, right?
That's awesome.
All right. Appreciate you, Jacob.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Get In. If you like what you heard, make sure you leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. This show is made possible by our friends up at Sweetwater. Whether you're looking to start a podcast or take your content to the next level, click the link in the description description to see all of my gear recommendations at sweetwater.com. If you want a behind the scenes look at everything we're doing across the state, make sure you follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Nate Spangle. Thank you so much for listening and being part of what makes the Hoosier State great. We'll see you next time here on Get In.